Okay, so Viva Financial Tuition is who we are. We are an online tuition provider for accountancy students, for professional accountancy students. We're an award-winning online accountancy tuition provider, I should mention as well, not just any old online accountancy tuition provider. We've helped over 10,000 students to pass their accountancy exams. We have an average rating of 4.8 out of 5 on Trustpilot, which is a third-party rating company, which we're quite proud of. We currently stand at 78 reviews, averaging at a 4.8 out of 5, which we take great pride in. We have world prize-winning students. We are a ACCA registered tuition provider. Okay, so some of you will be familiar with ACCA, the qualification. It's also an accountancy qualification, management accountancy. And we also have won the ACCA Global Pass Rate Excellence Award in 2020. So that's just some of our background, but the really exciting thing from your point of view as ACCA students is that we are moving into ACCA. We're beginning to offer ACCA tuition, ACCA resources, study materials, support, and so on and so forth. And this year, 2023, is the big year for us. We're going to be launching all of our ACCA courses, complete courses covering the entire syllabus. And the idea is that we are going to reproduce the success, the great success that we've had in ACCA in the ACCA space. So what we are planning on doing is bringing what's called our all access model to ACCA. Okay, and the all access model is essentially a yearly membership, whereby for a relatively low fee, you unlock access to every single course on our website so that you can proceed through it at your own pace, on demand, use it whenever you want, wherever you want, for one low yearly fee. Okay, so currently for ACCA, for example, we have all access standing at $399, which is exceptional value compared to some of the traditional ACCA tuition providers. And we want to really bring that model to the ACCA space. And our whole mission essentially is to have a premium tuition without the premium price tag. We were founded online. We're an exclusively online provider. And the idea basically is that a lot of the traditional tuition providers, the more established tuition providers, didn't start out online. They have very large overheads, large administrative costs. They have office spaces around the world, and they pass those costs on to the students in the form of higher prices. We believe that that's not necessary in the modern environment, and we believe firmly that we can deliver premium tuition at a fraction of the cost of those traditional providers. And our record, our awards, and our ratings are a testament to that fact, that we are able to deliver premium tuition, but at a fraction of the cost. So that's exciting. If I were an ACCA student, that would be music to my ears. And that's basically our thinking. So at the moment, if you're interested, I would recommend that you subscribe if you haven't already subscribed to our mailing list. And the easiest way for you to do that essentially is to sign up for our subject by subject pass guide for ACCA. This is a 64-page downloadable ebook, completely free. It goes through all the subjects, gives you some tips. There's tips from world prize winners, from ACCA examiners, and just very kind of broad guides on the structure of the exams, tips, things to do, things to avoid, and so on and so forth. So this is a really useful practical document that we've created for you. So I will be adding the link to the chat for everyone, so that you can access this free guide if you haven't already. I know some of you probably already have. And that will then automatically subscribe you to our mailing list. You simply click that you accept the conditions and you accept that you become a member of our mailing list. And as a subscriber, you will have access to our courses as soon as they become available, and you'll also benefit from some early bird offers. Okay, so there'll be some discounts that non-subscribers won't be able to avail of. So again, another great reason to subscribe and download this free ebook. So just to give you a flavor of the kinds of feedback we've had from our students. These are some of our most recent, in fact, reviews on Trustpilot. So again, this is a third-party platform where students can go and simply give us a review without having to come through us first or anything like that. So you can see here, Viva is an amazing tuition provider. These are students who are talking about their experience throughout the ACCA process. And one of the things that we hear over and over again is how surprised they are by the fact that at a fraction of the cost, they're getting at least as good, if not better, online tuition than some of the more traditional established providers. And that really is a testament to our model and to our mission. And you can see here, they have had success, first-time passes. They've felt also, and they've really appreciated the personal touch of our tuition. That's something we really try to do, is to convey that to our students, to touch base with our students, to guide them through the process of passing an exam step by step, and to check in with them. And that's why we've also created a very vibrant community on our website. We have access to a community for our students where they can talk with other students, talk with tutors, and so on and so forth. So just to give you a flavor of what we're about there. So you can see here, again, just to give you a benchmark, our trust score for Trustpilot is 4.8. The average for our area, which is career and education provider, is 3.7. So again, just to give you that kind of sense of what we've achieved. So that's all I'm going to say for now. As I said, I'm going to add the link to the free ACCA subject by subject pass guide into the chat, so you'll be able to access it there if you haven't already. And again, that'll subscribe you to our mailing list, and you'll get notified about all of our upcoming ACCA courses and other great free materials and webinars and so on that we'll be doing throughout the year. Okay, so I'm now going to stop sharing, and we're going to introduce our speaker for the evening, and that is Rachel Harris. So hopefully Rachel will be joining us now, and she will be unmuting, and yes, she has her presentation up, so that's a great sign. So Rachel, whenever you're ready, there you go. Excellent.
Hello, everybody. Hello. I'm really excited to be here with you today. Thank you so much, wherever you are in the world. I can see in the chat already there's people from all over the world, but where we are right now in the UK, it is a very cold Wednesday evening. So I'm really grateful that you're spending a cold Wednesday evening on Zoom with me. Just a little bit of an intro into me and who I am. So my name is Rachel, and I am the founder of Accountant She. Accountant She, for me, is the safe place on the internet that I was desperately searching for when I was training to be an accountant. I found it quite a scary and cold financial world to come into as a young person. And so I just wanted to create a really wholesome place on the internet where I could create lots and lots of completely free content for people like you, because I was sat Googling, trying to find answers to questions that I'm sure you guys have. And so I create lots and lots of completely free Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and LinkedIn content specifically for people who are training to become an accountant. Whether that is, what can I call myself when I've passed certain exams? When can I actually call myself an accountant? How much can I earn at different job titles? Because that's definitely what I was Googling, because I was on the apprenticeship minimum wage, desperate to pass my AAT and then go on to other things. So if you'd like to find out a little bit more about the very wholesome community that is Accountant She, you can scan the QR code that's on the screen now and just check that out while I am chatting along. So Accountant She, for me, I am just trying to disrupt what it means to be an accountant, what you have to look like to be an accountant. It is a very stale, pale and male industry. And for me, I was just so excited to bring some change into that. So I'm trying to disrupt what it means to be an accountant. I'm trying to disrupt what it feels like to have an accountant. If you are in the UK at the moment, you'll know that the 31st of January is the tax return deadline, and I'm spending my life right now chatting, doing lots of press and journalism work, just trying to get to as many people as possible to really speak openly about the fact that so much of our mental well-being as business owners is attached to our finances. And if it is the 18th of January and you haven't filed your tax return, actually that is because of the way your numbers make you feel, less about the actual numbers. And so I think very few people talk about well-being and feelings when it comes to finances, but actually so many of our financial decisions are made through finances. So as well as running Accountant She, my life is also split into different sections. So I have Accountant She, which is my online platform where I create lots of lovely content specifically for you guys. I then have an incredible accountancy practice called StriveX Accountants. We've actually got 3 members of the team on. I can see them in the participants list today. So 2 years ago, this was a one-man band that I ran with my husband from our dining room table. And through the work that we do on social media and within the small business owner community, we have scaled very rapidly from a one-man band at our dining room table 2 years ago to we are now a team of 12 members of staff, and we've just hit 600 clients. And so a really big part of creating content for me is actually just with login today. So just creating really great behind the scenes content, because when I was a young training accountant, all I wanted to know was like, what does your day look like? Or what do you get to do? Or how does your role change when you go from being an accountant to being a manager, or from a manager to then starting your own practice? And so I think for a really, really long time, lots of people have built the walls really high so that people feel like they can't look into the finance sector. And so I'm just trying to knock some walls down. And for me, as a millennial, the way that I found to do that is actually by creating really great content to give people insight into that, which is actually completely free for you to consume. Another little bit of disruption just before I move on to the juicy ACCA stuff is I have a huge passion to change actually the barriers that come with deciding to become an accountant. Viva is an incredibly affordable and accessible training provider, but even with that, lots and lots of people, if you don't come from a background that has either privilege or financial education, my parents weren't solicitors and accountants. I didn't feel like I would fit in being an accountant. And so I've actually created the first corporate bursary scheme in the UK, which is working to accept applications from people who don't have access to the finances to support their accounting journey. Again, I'll just go back super quickly in case anybody wants to scan that QR code, so you can find access to the bursary, which is supporting somebody through level 2, level 3 and level 4 AAT. And then might be able to hand you over to Viva one day to get you to come and finish and do ACCA. So I'll stop word vomiting in a minute, but through my job as an accountant, I literally have the best job in the world. I am either chatting to people like you who are considering a career in accountancy, or considering taking their career in accountancy to the next level. But I also get to work with some really cool brands. I never thought that being an accountant would mean like doing TV interviews or being on the covers of magazines, or working with incredible brands that I have followed and really engaged with for a really long time. And so I am sponsored by just making accountancy the best job in the world, and to really just get that message across, because to me, financial education, becoming an accountant and like being absorbed in this world has changed my life. And I really, really just want to help other people change their life through the same stuff. And so before I get stuck in, I just want to explain what I'm here to do today. So I'm here to talk to you about things that I think you should know before you start ACCA. The 3 employees that I have on the webinar today are actually about to start ACCA. 2 are just finishing off their final level 4 AAT exams. So there could be lots of people in that position right now. And then another is about to start her ACCA completely from scratch with no prior learning apart from school. She's starting in 3 weeks' time. So again, there could be other people who are in that situation. And so I'm here through my experience of working with employees and people that are in those situations, all the way through to running a chartered accountancy practice. And as somebody who hires chartered accountants, what I think you should know before you get stuck into ACCA. Very, very often in the finance industry, people jump straight into the nitty gritty and they don't zoom out. And so I actually thought, before I get stuck into it, I'm going to give you my top 10 tips, my top 10 things that I think you should know before you start. I'm actually just going to zoom out a little bit and just give you a very like bird's eye view of the ACCA qualification. I feel like lots of people that go into finance and careers in finance are perfectionists and control freaks, because we love making things reconcile. And so actually with that very often comes quite like a anxious and high functioning personality type. And so for me, just having people quite calmly explain how the qualification is mapped out would be really, really helpful. And so to summarize, to pass ACCA, you must complete 14 different exams or have exemptions to some of them, which I'm going to come on to in a little while. And so the 4 different elements that you need to get through to pass ACCA are the core ACCA exams, which I will explain in a little bit more detail in a sec. You've then got your optional exams, where you get to choose a couple of options which best suit you depending on your career direction and your interests. You then have to do an ethics and professional skills module. And then finally, you have to have some practical experience requirements to get signed off as well. So within the core exams, because that's why everybody's here, within the core exams, you can actually split those core exams into 3 different sections. We've got the applied knowledge applied knowledge exams, which is 3 exams. You've got applied skills, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 exams. And then you've got a strategic professional. It's in strategic professional where there's 2 essentials, and then you get to choose options on top. And so really, if you're heading into ACCA, in my mind, it's breaking it into those 3 sections: applied knowledge, applied skills, strategic professional. And then once you've done that, then you move on to ethics and then practical experience requirements as well. In my mind, if you can get through those first 3 chunks of exams, which again in my head are like years of your life, 3 years, the ethics will come very, very naturally to you, and the practical experience is something that you normally have as a default of getting all of that experience and getting through all of those exams as well. So that's like a bird's eye view of the qualification before I really, really get stuck in. But I'm now going to move on to exactly what I think you should know before you start ACCA. So a really, really common question that I get is what exemptions are available to me. People just need to know that all of their prior learning has paid off. And so depending on any existing qualifications that you hold, exemptions can be awarded across the foundational levels and then also within the applied knowledge and applied skills elements of the ACCA qualification, depending on what different options you've done. I've actually put some really, really good links up here. So the first QR code, if you scan that, goes direct to ACCA, and that is the ACCA exemptions calculator. Very simple, very straightforward. They just ask you a couple of key questions, and then they'll be able to tell you exactly what exemptions you get access to. And then again, if you are on the webinar today because you are about to finish AAT, or you're going into your last year of AAT, or you've already finished AAT and you've had a break, I have created specific YouTube content, which is how best to transition from AAT to ACCA, because it is quite a jump and it is something that a lot of people get quite anxious about. And that video suggestion actually came from one of our level 4 AAT students who's about to transition into AAT. And so again, as somebody with the best job in the world, if an employee asks me a question, I just say, stop, let me create a YouTube video, because if you've got this question, everybody else has got this question as well. It is worth mentioning that no exemptions are awarded for the strategic professional exams, so the final layer of exams. No exemptions are also awarded for work experience, so you do not get any exemptions for work experience. And then no exemptions are awarded for any of the exams or modules examined within the ACCA post-professional qualifications. So ACCA do different modules and different elements that sit outside the core ACCA exam and qualification. If you've done any of those, you don't actually get any exemptions into there. But those are the basics, those are the exemptions. I just wanted to get the really common and obvious things out of the way first. And so exemptions is a very, very common question that I get asked. So next up, we've got the entry requirements. So specifically for the UK, just because that's where I am an accountant, that's where I run the practice. Students need to have 2 A-levels and 3 GCSEs in 5 separate subjects, including maths and English, or their equivalent, and or their equivalent is an important piece. So if you didn't have A-levels, but you did go to college, or maybe you've done a different sort of apprenticeship in the past, you can leverage those qualifications to get onto a CCA. Students who don't actually have the minimum academic qualifications might still be eligible for ACCA offer a foundations in accountancy qualification, or again, things like AAT. AAT have a much lower entry requirement. So if you don't have GCSEs and you don't have A levels, you can work your way up like a flight of stairs from AAT onto ACCA and get through that way. Again, that's why I really, really love the relationship between the AAT qualification and ACCA. It really makes it accessible to everybody. Another very, very common question is all about costs and funding. So, and again, I think when I was studying, this was one of my most common questions. So you must be registered as an active ACCA student in order to enroll for exams. So step 1 is get your membership sorted. This means that you need to pay a one-time registration fee of £89. And then from there, you need to pay an annual subscription fee of £122. It's worth saying that these prices are correct at the 18th of January, 2023. But if you are somehow watching this recording later than that, or if you're writing the numbers down and you come back to it next year, do just check again. And then so in your first year, you pay both the £89 to register and the £122. annual subscription fee. And then for every year after that, you only pay the 122 annual subscription fee, which is due before the 1st of January. So, you can ask for that for Christmas. You do also, it's worth noting, need to pay for this fee, even if you aren't sitting any exams that year. So just to run through that, your initial registration fee is £89. To re-register, so if you let your registration lapse, you have to pay again a re-registration fee of £89. And then from there, your annual subscription, which you do have to pay in the year that you register onwards, is £122. I mentioned exemptions. So if anybody's currently on that exemptions calculator and they're like, yes, oh gosh, I've done AAT, so I've got exemptions to like 3 or 4 different exams, you actually also have to pay exemption fees. So an exemption fee is charged for every single ACCA exam that you are awarded through exemptions. And so in the applied knowledge module, that sort of base core set of exams, those are £98 per exemption. And then within the applied skills exams, which is the middle line of exams, they are £123 per exam. On top of those fees, so you've got your registration fee, your annual subscription, and then you've also passed through any exemption fees. You also then have to pay exam fees on top. It's worth noting, I'm going to come on to like funding options in a sec. This is just the cost, and then I'll come on to funding. There are 2 different ways to book your ACCA exams. There is the normal timing. You can book the sort of normal entry level for an exam, but then there's also a late fee. So if you're booking an exam very close to when you want to sit the exam, I think the limit is within 2 or 3 weeks, you actually pay more money to sit the exam. I don't know why. I guess it's like early bird. They just want people to book them. So you have a normal fee and then you have a late fee, and the late fee is more expensive. I'm not going to quote exam fees just because it can change depending on where, when, who, what, why, where you're studying. But there is a normal fee and a late fee. That's very common, and it is standard with ACCA. So coming on to, that's the cost. And now I'm just going to talk a little bit about funding options. I think firstly, I'll just set the scene in terms of what we do in our business. So I started our firm with my husband, James. We started our practice because we trained at a top 75 firm, and apprenticeships, funding, the pressure of exams was very, very, very intense. And we really felt like there was scope to do it better. So with the disruption that I do in other parts of the industry, incorporated into that is actually just to try and do it better. I think for me as an employer, that's doing it with compassion, and I live my life with the motto that you don't become poor by giving. And so we absolutely love the apprenticeship scheme. The apprenticeship scheme in the UK is a fantastic way to fund options for people who want to continue studying in their adult life. So if you're here today and you do have employment, you do work in finance and accounting, whether that's industry or practice, really do consider talking to your employer about funding options for ACCA. If you are a large company, you can actually access 100% of the funding available to you. And if you are a small business, you can access support for up to 95% of your funding. It's a really great way for you guys to actually receive the education. So you as the student receive it completely free of charge, and your employer contributes up to, you can get up to 5% off your fees as well when you're doing that through the apprenticeship scheme. Another really great benefit of doing things through the apprenticeship scheme is that rather than your relationship just being you and ACCA, your relationship is actually a little triangle between you, your employer, and ACCA. And so you, your employer, and ACCA enter into a contract where you all agree to adhere to specific guidelines. So you get study leave, you get time off to study, you get time off to do your exams, your employer signs a commitment to make sure that you are learning and developing yourself throughout your career across the journey that is ACCA. So if you are in employment and this isn't something that your employer has already spoken to you about funding, really do bring this to them. So next up, we have got time to complete. So you're sat here like, yes, I've already decided that I want to do it. I already know what exemptions I'm going to do. Just tell me, is it 2025? Is it 2026? Like, how long is it going to take? So ACCA online courses offered in the UK specifically typically require you to dedicate 2 months to learn each subject minimum, with exam sittings once per quarter. So that is one part of ACCA that I haven't mentioned yet. So if you are coming from AAT land, where you just sit exams at college or online whenever you're ready to, ACCA only have 4 exam sittings per year to just sort of really make sure people are pacing themselves. Again, that's where the late fees for exams come in, because there are set exam sittings. So with exam sittings only once per quarter, with that in mind, the full qualification will take you around 3 years to complete. And if you've got exemptions, it could be a little bit less. But again, with one of the employees that is on today, we actually had her kickoff meeting for ACCA, and it is always a really, really good idea to just plan extra time onto that. Life happens. Sometimes it could be something's happened that's delayed your study. It could be that maybe you failed an exam. And so it's really important from a mental well-being perspective to just make sure that you are accepting what comes and building your own journey into what ACCA looks like for you. Later on today, through the course of today, I'm going to be talking to you about like how to plan and structure your studying, how to do that, how to prioritize your mental well-being through the process of doing ACCA, because I feel like that is one of the most important bits. It certainly was for me. A little bit of small print to cover actually on the time to complete is that you actually only have, you only have 10 years to complete the qualification from the point that you register. So it does cap out at a decade, it's 10 years. And so after that, you would then have to resit any exams that you'd already sit in order to make them count. So we've spoken about how long it takes in your life, but like what's actually involved. Obviously, every student is different, but ACCA themselves recommend an average of 150 hours of study per paper. If you're making notes, you might want to write that number down, 150 hours of study per paper. Obviously, lots and lots of training providers cover most of that with you, but it is really important to set expectations of exactly how much is required of you inside and outside of work. In total, then, if we're thinking about 150 hours of study per paper, you are looking at around 900 hours of study for the 3 years whilst holding down a full-time job. I've just realized how depressing that sounds when you say it out loud. I promise it's not depressing. And actually, for so many people, this is actually really motivating, because every hour you do, you are knocking down that scale and you are closer to becoming qualified. So even if you are really familiar with accounting, studying for the ACCA under those conditions is difficult. And so even if you're starting from scratch, if you've done prior learning and you've done AAT beforehand, it is really, really important to just make sure that you are happy and confident, you're going into things with the right mindset, and you are prioritizing looking after yourself at the same time. I haven't actually mentioned it yet, but I'm going to just answer any questions that you guys have got at the end. So please do use the Q&A function. The chat function can get quite crowded with people just talking about internet issues and things. So please use the Q&A function if you have a specific question. I've actually got a queue of questions waiting for me already. So that is the study required. I feel like a lot of the things that I've mentioned so far are pretty standard. They are definitely the most common questions that I get asked. And so points 6 to 10 are actually like my personal top tips from my experience of studying for accounting qualifications. So number 6 is get a mentor. And this is something that I wish somebody sat me down at the beginning of my accounting journey and said, get a mentor. For me, not having a mentor was such a strong part of my career to date that I have made a really active role in terms of the role of a mentor that I then become in other people's life. So I am actually a director and trustee of AAT. So I sit on the board of directors of AAT. Again, that comes with disruption, I guess, a little bit, just making sure that young women are represented specifically in academia. I think that's really important. I was the first person to say, I just became a director of AAT and I just wanted to let you know that I failed some exams, because for me, that representation and people speaking openly about failure was really, really important. But I think for me, not having a mentor in my earlier life when I was studying made sure that I was on an absolute mission to just try and work with and inspire as many people as possible. So Within our firm, we actually operate a personal development structure. So when people have passed their probation of working within our firm, they get an hour one-to-one personal development time with me. So I'm able to work really, really closely with our team, even though we've grown and scaled and they might not see me every day. Actually, we have an hour-long dedicated time every single month, whether that's in person over a cup of tea, whether it's on Zoom and we're building a study planner. For me, that mentoring piece is really, really important. And so if you've never had a mentor before, if you're not entirely sure what that means, it can basically mean whatever you want it to mean. And I think, again, that's something that I wish somebody had told me. So a mentor is somebody, whether it is in a formal or informal capacity, it's somebody who acts as an advisor and support person in your life for somebody who is less experienced than them. So mentors can help you to kickstart your professional development. Again, that's why I was really passionate about bringing it into our own firm and driving that development through our team, because again, I only benefit from that because, if I say so myself, we have the best and most talented accountants in the country. Mentors can also really help you to clarify and set goals for yourself. I think sometimes setting goals for yourself when you're alone, or you just sat in your room, or you're at your desk, it can feel a bit strange setting goals for yourself. But actually having somebody who knows you and really cares about you to also add perspective to your life and help you to set goals in that way is fantastic. The next thing that mentors can do, I think, is one of the most important and is one of the most important parts of the personal development that I do with our team, is mentors hold you accountable. And I think, again, that is one of the most important things. Viva is an online distance learning training provider. Post-pandemic, that is really, really common. Again, it's lowering the barriers to entry. It means that you don't have to pay to travel or have transport to get to a college. It also means that they can provide it at a cheaper rate. But with online distance learning, it does mean that actually that you have to be accountable for yourself, and you have to be very, very self-motivating. And so actually, if you are having informal or formal cups of tea with someone that you work with, or a monthly coffee or a monthly Zoom call with somebody that you work with, it is that accountability that you have to sit there this month. And by next month, you have to have achieved the goals that you said you were going to, simply for that own intrinsic accountability. Mentors can also help you to develop your leadership skills. So by nature, mentors working with mentees is more experienced people working with less experienced people. And having that leadership and development piece is really fantastic. I also think as well, when you're first training, especially in accountancy, we're so governed by rules and regulations that sometimes we feel like we actually don't know what we're doing, because everything that you're learning is new. So very often there's a high level of imposter syndrome within our industry, because the people that you are surrounded by, who are your leaders, know a lot more than you. Everything that you're learning at college is completely brand new. And so even if you are developing and progressing at a pace that's pretty rapid, you'll probably still feel like you don't know enough. And so having a mentor to develop your leadership skills is really, really important. On that point of just sort of progression and other people seeing things that you can't see in yourself, mentors can actually raise your confidence and really improve your problem solving abilities by just offering you that safe place in your life to talk and ask questions. Finally, again, this is really important for me, and it's one of my favorite things to do, is mentors can expand your network and open doors up to new opportunities. And so by having conversations with your mentor about what you would love to do in the future, what direction you like your career to go in, what department you'd like to work in, that person, by the nature of being more qualified and more experienced, they can offer you work experience in another department. They could offer to introduce you to somebody that they know that works in a company that you might be able to take a more senior position in. And so my top tip that sort of sits outside of the standard ACCA tips and frequently asked questions is get a mentor. If you need some tips to reach out to somebody to become a mentor, I would really, really encourage you. One of the goals that I set myself 2 years ago when I started the business was to ask for help, and ask for help repeatedly and not be embarrassed about it. I think asking for help is something that very often we can get quite scared about. We might feel a little bit embarrassed about asking for help, but in reality, it's a really big compliment. If you think about the last time somebody asked for your help, let's say you're at work and there's somebody who's more junior than you and they asked you for help, you'd be like, oh, they asked me, not so-and-so, not so-and-so, they asked me. And so very, very often most people find it a massive compliment if you ask for help. Lots of people actually, mentoring is a part of people's lives that they actually get a lot out of as well. I know I do. And so if you do have somebody in your workplace, maybe not your direct manager, somebody that you have to directly report with and sort of have like two parts of your life. If there's anybody at work that you don't report directly to, who is more senior, who's maybe done ACCA or is doing ACCA at a further level, or they're a couple of exams ahead of you, ask them if they, and you don't have to like label it mentoring. You could just say like, would you be up for having a cup of coffee with me once a month so we can just check in? And I really think that accountability would really, really help me. Again, I'm going to put my QR code to connect on socials at the end. And so if you are thinking like, oh gosh, I think I might know somebody that I could ask to be my mentor, please let me know how it goes. Let me know about those conversations that you're having at work, because I always promised that I would just do everything I can to make things easier for those that come after me, because I struggled so much. And I really, really wish somebody told me to get a mentor. Next up, again, is build a routine. I think so often there are many, many amazing books that I can recommend all about building routine, but so often this is heightened by distance learning. And so if you're here on this webinar today, you're interested in studying with Viva, it's really important to build routine, build a study plan, and stay accountable to that. And so I'm hoping now you can see how a lot of the elements that I'm talking about today actually build upon each other. So if you can imagine yourself with a mentor, you've got somebody that you have to go to every month, you've got a study plan. And so every month you're telling your mentor what you're going to get done in that study plan. And every month you have to report back to them and say, I didn't do it, I went out with my friends. You can see how they all build upon each other to just develop a really, really wholesome and inclusive like study environment. And so the main benefit of building a routine and building a study plan into your life is that actually you'll feel really organized. Sometimes when you're studying and working and trying to have a social life at the same time, it can feel a bit chaotic, like you're running from one thing to the next thing to the next thing. And so actually, I think you'll find once you've got everything scheduled, you'll be able to then find that you'll be across your schedule and you can plan ahead. It also breaks down the study load. So I mentioned that those 150 hours, it breaks that down into really manageable amounts. And then you also have time to complete any assignments, any homework, any extra bits and bobs that you've got. And so you can actually break your learning down into learning, revising, and then studying on top of that as well. Another element of building great routine and creating a study schedule will also help you to align your studies with your other commitments and things that you really, really like doing, such as work or hobbies that you've got outside of work. So this will really help you to avoid any clashes in your schedule, because you'll have that real clear vision of exactly what is happening, where and when. I also as well think that incorporating hobbies and things that you love into a schedule is an affirmation that just because you are studying and just because you are studying and working at the same time, it doesn't mean that you can't do other things. And so within the mentoring and personal development that I do with my team, we very, very often try and incorporate taking up old hobbies or building elements of recreation in their life that they maybe stopped when they started work and started studying back into their life. It could be anything from taking your mum out to dinner to taking up an old hobby like dancing, and just making sure that you've built that into your schedule so you know exactly what is happening. So just to like break down exactly what building routine and building a study schedule will look like, everybody has a different learning style. And I'm going to come on to learning style shortly, because this was a whole piece for me that changed my whole life. But everybody has different learning styles. And so really reflecting on what that is and coming on to the tips that I'll share in a second about learning to learn, the irony, you can then tailor your schedule in a way that really, really suits you best. So you can then evaluate your current commitments, anything that you've said yes to. If you see your grandma every Tuesday, that's okay. You just pop in your current commitments. You then create study time for every single module that you've got going on. You can then develop a schedule. You can then incorporate the goal setting and the mentoring. So build your goals into the schedule and make sure that the goals that you've set, the schedule allows for. It's really, really important to plan breaks. So if you're somebody who really likes doing little and often, still always give yourself a couple of nights off or one night off a week. or if actually you're somebody who really loves to just spend a whole day at the weekend rather than a couple of hours every weeknight, just make sure you are planning for that. Again, planning breaks into that, so booking out any holiday or work annual leave that you've got from work into that schedule again means that you're not having to compromise or study on holiday, which nobody wants to do. Again, finding study buddies or study groups. If the pandemic taught us anything, it's that we can still maintain these connections remotely, and so even if you are studying remotely or even hybrid, you can still really connect with your cohorts. If there's people at your workplace that are studying at the same time, find a study buddy, or if not, there's actually loads of amazing Facebook groups and like online groups that you can join to actually connect you with people who are studying at the same time as you. The final point, again, because we are all wannabe accountants on this call today and we love structure and we like knowing what the plan is, it's really important to know that a really good plan is one that you constantly evaluate and adjust to get to what feels right for you. And over the course of the next 3 years that it could be that you're doing ACCA, lots of things in your life will change, life will happen. And so it's really important to give yourself permission to evaluate that plan and adjust it accordingly. There's also some really amazing apps that are great for scheduling study, setting timers, and just keeping you really accountable, or actually using apps to build schedules that tell you when you need to study. So next up, we've got life after ACCA, which might be hard to think about right now, but I know when I was studying, it was a really big part of staying motivated, having a North Star to look at so that I stopped focusing on the specific ratio that I was learning for the exam, and I remembered why I was doing it. A really big part of the work that I do with my content and my online platform is to showcase the different options that are available to you once you have qualified with ACCA. I've got lots and lots of YouTube content explaining the different salaries and job titles that you can get at different points during your studying life. And so I also, within the life after ACCA piece, just wanted to map out what that could look like for you. So really the accounting world is split into a couple of different sections. The big main divide, and it is a bit of a divide, is industry and practice. So in industry, although the world has just gone through a very crazy time and technology is continuing to evolve, the demand for accountancy and finance professionals is always going to be very high. You could work near enough in any industry as long as the company is big enough to need accounting services in-house. So whether that's IT, insurance, sport, business, hospitality, or anything you can think of, your profession is in demand. I think as well, like that was, I have ended up in practice, but I think for me, that was something that really attracted me because I was always somebody that when I was at school, I didn't know what I wanted to do. And so the thought that I could incorporate different elements of my life, different hobbies into my work life and pick any industry in the world, but still be an accountant was very attractive to me. Again, within those sectors, there's lots of different roles that you could move into once you've decided if and where you want to specialize. So different job titles that you might be able to have once you've qualified is a management accountant, financial accountant, a finance manager, a fund accountant, a finance director, a CFO. And so that is life in industry. Life in practice is my bread and butter. That's the bit that I love talking about. I am obsessed with running my own practice. And so the QR code on the screen right now is a day in the life video of an ACCA qualified accountant, what we all get up to. So my husband, James, is actually this video. So he is the ACCA qualified license holder within our practice. And so this is a day in his life, which is amazing. So that is covering off the practice piece. Again, life after ACCA might not just be black and white in terms of industry and practice. You also have different options. So you could continue studying. Lots of people, once they've done accounting, actually realize that the bit about accounting that they love is business. And so I actually went on to do an MBA after I finished my accounting qualifications, and an MBA really is what changed my life and made me really excited to start my own business. which brings me nicely on to options after ACCA. My final thing that I wanted to talk about is starting your own business, whether that's starting your own accountancy practice or starting another business just with a really strong financial background. So if there's any budding entrepreneurs on the call today, an ACCA qualification will give you a really great foundation to start your own business in the field of finance, accountancy, or anything else that you're interested in as well. So lots of people, for example, start consultancy firms. They could work as a freelance accountant or as an independent financial advisor if you go on to do a couple more exams, and then also work with small and medium-sized businesses. It's also worth mentioning at this point in terms of life after ACCA that ACCA is globally recognized, and so there is lots of opportunities and chances to work overseas. Okay, next up, number 9. Oh, this is probably one of the most important things I'll be able to tell you during the time that we spend today. Accountancy is very black and white. It's numerical. It's something's either right or something's either wrong. It's allowable or disallowable. It's a debit or a credit. Actually, the only part of our lives that doesn't apply to is failure. And so I actually, before everybody starts ACCA or AAT, whenever they go onto a training program with us and they start their journey with us in their personal development, I read something to them, and I would really like to read it to you. And so if you fail an exam, if you have been doing AAT and you have failed exams, I would just really encourage you that if you get a fail, imagine I am the examiner, and this is what I'm saying to you. Even though you've put a lot of time and effort into this exam, and it feels very personal, and there is a lot of blood, sweat, and tears that have gone into you taking this exam, I have only assessed your exam. I have not assessed you as a person. So even though this exam feels as though it's a part of you, your exam is not you, and you are not your exam. So failing does not make you a failure. I think it's really, really important to talk about that, because for so many people, their self-worth is attached to their exam results. I, just for a little bit of sanity, would love to tell you that with the 600 clients that we've now taken onto our practice, not a single one of them has ever asked me for an exam result or how many exams I passed and how many exams I failed. Getting the qualification is the most important thing. And so if failure is on the cards, or if you need some help preparing for failure, again, if you're making notes, I would encourage you to write down. I basically have like a 4-step process for when people fail exams and I'm trying to help them. So the first is just give yourself permission to feel it. Like, it's going to feel bad for a little while. You're going to want to have like a little Bridget Jones moment where you just eat Ben and Jerry's and cry. Maybe there's wine involved. Like, give yourself permission to feel sad about it. Once you've done that, and I would recommend setting a deadline on that, so let yourself feel sad about it for 24 hours or 48 hours, depending on how serious you're feeling. Next up is to just practice self-compassion and be really, really kind to yourself. The next is to reflect on the experience and adopt a growth mindset with failure. So normally, if you get a fail, something happens in your tummy where you think, oh, like, I know what it was. I know I either didn't put the hours in, or I didn't stick to my schedule, or I wasn't kept accountable. And so just reflect on that experience and adopt a growth mindset and use it as an opportunity to grow. And then step 4, again, it comes back to revisiting, constantly evolving and constantly changing through this journey. So revisit your goals and create a plan for the future. Okay, I mentioned this a second ago. This is probably one of like the most groundbreaking things I ever learned in my adult life. I went through the whole of the UK school system doing GCSEs and A-levels, basically just being taught to pass exams, being taught on the national curriculum. At no point during the education system did I learn how to learn, and I definitely didn't learn how I learn best. So every student, every individual, every person has a different learning style. And so one of the best things you can do in your ACCA journey is to tailor your schedule, tailor your routine, and tailor your education in a way that best suits your learning style. So I want you to ask yourselves the following questions. Can you focus for long periods of time? Some people love like binging, whether that's Netflix content or it's actually like educational content. Some people love focusing for really long periods of time, and other people are like, my life is like TikTok. If it is like longer than 5 seconds, I just can't do it. Understanding how long you can focus on and what you can focus on is actually a really great way to adapt the way that you learn. The second question is, what time of day are you most productive? Again, this comes into work life and study life. I'm a huge believer of like adapting your working hours and adapting your working routine to, like, if you need to go to the gym in your lunch break, to make sure that you are like awake, alive, alert, and enthusiastic in the afternoon, go to the gym in your lunch break. Like, learn more about yourself and use starting ACCA as an opportunity to do that. So what time of day are you the most productive? Next up is, do you need to take a break before returning to class material? So if you've just been taught something by a tutor, do you need to wait like a week before you then start compressing that? Or are you pretty happy to just take that and run and go straight off and start doing flashcards? And that's a really important piece, is, do you need time between learning something and then remembering it? Because sometimes, again, and this is what happens at school, you learn something and the next day or the next week you're tested on it. And it could be that your brain simply needs more like processing time, like a computer. So once you are across, like you understand your learning style, you can then schedule your study at the times of day and the types of learning that best suit you. If you do find that you can only study in short sessions, you could plan your schedule around this and do little bits each evening. I actually, on YouTube, a couple of times a year, run live stream study sessions. And within that, we actually use the Pomodoro technique. Pomodoro is very, very widely adopted. It's very common, so you've probably heard of it before. Pomodoro is where you commit to 25 minutes of study, you take a break for 5 minutes, and then you repeat this as many times as you want. Lots of people repeat it 4 times. And so what you've actually done is basically 2 hours of study, but by breaking it into really short, sharp chunks, you're sort of convincing your brain to just focus for 25 minutes. I used to reward myself with digestives. So like within that 5-minute break, I knew I got to like eat as many digestives as I could in 5 minutes, and it spurred me on for the next 25. Having a longer break to look forward to might help you as well. So doing it in blocks of 2 hours, so 25 minutes and a 5-minute break 4 times, and then having a really long break, so like half an hour. That can do a lot and help you study as well. It's really, really simple. So you can either put on live stream study with me YouTube videos. There's loads of amazing content creators that do that. You can use the timer on your phone to just track your study time. If you find your phone to be too much of a distraction, though, you can just use the timer on an egg timer or a microwave. I've literally had people tell me that they do it on a microwave. So they literally set the microwave. I think that's a bit dangerous, but you can set your microwave or just an egg timer as well, if you need to stay off your phone, because that's very, very common. So if you are struggling to stay on task as well, you might also find it useful to just download some distraction apps that block out non-essential programs on your phone or your laptop. Again, iPhones are really, really good for just diverting things, and you can just set up study modes. So once it goes on study modes, only the emergency services and your mum can get through to your phone. So I just wanted to... Oh, we've got some fancy things now. Just wanted to do a really, really quick overview of exactly what we've covered today in terms of exemptions, entry requirements, costs, time to complete, study to required, why it's really important to get a mentor and seek out a mentor. Don't wait for them to find you. Build a routine, what life after ACCA could look like for you, acknowledging that failure doesn't make you a failure, and then finally learning how to learn. Hugo's back on. I've got lots of questions in the chat. Lots of them, I think, are actually specifically focused at Hugo and not me. There's a couple on here I think I can answer. So Sumera has asked, what level of AAT would it be if I did it via university? So most universities don't actually offer AAT. I think some people do like knowing the equivalent. So I think once you've got up to AAT level 4, that is the equivalent of a foundation. So like the first year at university. Again, Hugo, there's lots and lots of syllabus questions.
Yeah, no problem. Sorry, Rachel. Yeah,
Sorry.
You go ahead. Go ahead.
I think that's it. I'm just going to go back to the beginning because then I can get my QR code back up, because somebody has asked how they can find me on YouTube. So this
there you go. Yeah.
QR code. That QR code will take you to all of the great places. Those are the questions. I'm just going to check the chat, Hugo, while I let you answer the very specific questions that we've got on the Q&A.
No problem. Thank you so much for that, Rachel. That was absolutely wonderful. Before I get to some of the questions there, the ones that are directed specifically to Viva Financial Tuition, I'm going to share that link one more time to the free ACCA subject by subject pass guide that we have on our website. So I'm just going to add that to the chat there for anyone who joined late or didn't see the link earlier on. I don't have a fancy QR code like Rachel does, but we've got the old-fashioned URL there. So just click on that and register for free, and you'll be added then to our mailing list. And you get all of the free goodies for ACCA that we're going to be sending out over the coming weeks and months. And also you will get immediate early indication of when we've launched our ACCA courses. And that brings me then to this question, which was asked, I think it was the first question that was asked, was when will the ACCA course start at Viva? That's not a planted question, by the way. That's just someone naturally asking that. This isn't just another opportunity for me to plug Viva's upcoming ACCA courses, but I will. ACCA's courses will be going live from March of this year. Okay, so we'll have a number of ACCA courses going live from March. And then throughout the rest of the year, all of the other ACCA courses will be going live. If you're part of our mailing list, you'll get more specific details in the coming weeks and months about exactly when each subject is going to go live. Okay, so I can't give you the precise dates just yet, but we'll know as we're putting the final touches on our courses, and we'll know more accurately when these particular subjects are going to go live. So keep an eye on your emails, keep an eye on your Viva mailing list emails, and you will be given all that information as it comes available. And also, you'll be the beneficiary of early bird offers. So you'll get discounts. You might get some freebies as well, some free access for a limited time, and so on to our courses as we release them. Okay, so a wonderful reason to subscribe. There's a second question here, and I'm not sure if this is directed to Viva or if it's directed to Rachel or both, which is, do you have APM, Advanced Performance Management, ACCA? We will have that course at Viva. Yes, all of the ACCA courses, or subjects, I should say, will have courses for them this year. They'll be going live. I can't tell you exactly when APM is going to become available as a course on Viva, but as I said, if you're part of our mailing list, that information will be shared with you as it becomes available for the specific release dates.
So someone has asked, when does ACCA start with Aviva? Are you allowed to tell us the answer to that question?
When will ACCA start? Is that the first question? The first question I answered was, yes, when will the ACCA courses start at Viva? So as I said, March is the kind of the starting point for the release of the going live with our courses. So from March onwards, you'll start seeing the full courses on the website. In the meantime, we're going to be sharing lots of good free content. There'll be more free live webinars. There's the pass guide. There'll be lots of guides on how to learn, actually. Some of the things that you mentioned there towards the end, Rachel, about learning how to learn. At Viva, we have lots of great free resources that explains kind of the scientific principles behind learning effectively and how you can implement them in your accountancy training and accountancy learning. So that's another thing that we'll be sharing with you through our mailing list. Amazing.
Heather has asked, she's just said, actually, I can't see the link for accessing free content.
Okay, so the link for the pass guide is in the chat, Heather. So if you click on the chat, and I'm not sure whether you're on a mobile, whether you're on a laptop, if you're on a laptop or a desktop, you should see the chat button somewhere at the bottom of your screen. You can click on that and it'll come up on the right-hand side. And if you just scroll up a little bit, you'll see there that I've shared the link to the pass guide for Viva. If you can see, I'll do it again there. It's the most recent thing that's been added to the chat.
And then somebody else has asked, will they be able to watch a recording of this webinar?
Yes, this webinar is being recorded and we'll be sharing it with you via our mailing list. So we'll be sending it out to everyone. And also attendees will just automatically get a link to the replay within 24 hours. So no worries there if you missed anything.
Perfect.
Let's see, is there anything else? Heather, I'm not sure if that's sorted you out there, if you found the link to the ACCA subject by subject pass guide from Viva. You can just give me a shout in the chat there. It's still not showing up in the chat. Well, that's interesting. I don't know. Can you see it, Rachel, in the chat when I share the link? I've just shared it there.
Sorry,
you can see it.
Just shared it with hosts and panelists. So I'll drop down to 2. You just need to change it to all.
There we go. That's what it is. I was wondering. Okay, everyone, excellent. Okay, there we go. This should be it. All right. Does everyone see that now?
Yeah.
Yes, that should do it.
Alrighty.
Excellent. Okay, fantastic. Okay, everyone. So let's see. Do we have any more questions that we can deal with? anything else we got here? How can I get the syllabus on financial reporting? And in December, so this, if you're asking for the syllabus of financial reporting, presumably that's something that you'll be able to find on ACCA's website. ACCA's website is fantastic for free guidance and full syllabus explanations and structure of exam and everything like that. You can find all of those links on the ACCA website. If you want me to, I can probably search for it right now, in fact, and just send it to you. Just bear with me a second. Yeah, so here, I'm just going to share this link again in the chat there for financial reporting. This isn't Viva now, this is from ACCA itself, but as I said, their website is just fantastic for all these kinds of answering these kinds of questions. So yeah, let's see, is there anything else in the Q&A that we can look at? In December, in the December attempt, I passed my F4 paper. As I belong to Pakistan, can I move to UK to continue my studies in the UK? I can't say I'm an expert on that particular situation. My guess would be that yes, you would be able to. I can't see why that would be a problem. I'm not sure if Rachel has anything to say on that point. But again, I wouldn't take my word for it. Again, this is something you're probably better going to ACCA.
I would say as well, I just echo everything that Hugo said. ACCA are really, really approachable.
They're excellent for those kinds of questions. Absolutely, yeah. And there's lots of help and support on the website, and you can send in emails and things like that. So as I said, my intuition is that there shouldn't be a problem with that, but don't take my word for it. Better to actually just ask ACCA directly about those kinds of more technical questions in terms of qualification between regions and things like that.
All of the questions.
That's okay. All right. Well, thank you so much, Rachel. That was wonderful, really informative. Some great tips there, and I hope everyone enjoyed it. As I said, I'm going to just reshare one more time, because I wasn't sharing with everyone previously. I was only sharing with the hosts and panelists. I'm going to share it one more time, our subject by subject pass guide for ACCA, the free guide from Viva. You can register for free, download the guide, and you'll be part of our mailing list. And you will receive word on our ACCA courses, which are going to be going live from March of this year. So keep an eye out for that. Okay, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us from all over the world. Have a wonderful evening, morning, afternoon, wherever you are. And we will be in touch very soon. So thank you again, Rachel, and all the best, everyone. Take care.
Thank you, guys. Bye.
Bye-bye.